how to talk to your employer about sponsorship. So look, your time's coming to an end. You've been on your visa. You've loved your time in Australia and you want to extend your stay, potentially with, maybe an aim of getting permanent residency. So how do you talk to your employer about sponsorship? So we're asked these questions a lot. And I do understand that it can be really difficult to approach an employer and kind of broach this subject. So this video is some of my tips on some of, the ideas that I recommend with how you approach your employer about getting sponsored in Australia. Okay, so firstly and most importantly, know your facts, okay? Don't go to them and go, yeah, I want to get sponsored. Sponsored in what? What are the requirements? Know your facts. Go to them with the facts. Go to them with the figures. Ensure you know what type of visa you can apply for. Are you going for a 482? Are you going for the permanent 186? Are you going to go for the training visa? There's a lot of different sponsored visas out there. Next, is your occupation even eligible? Look, if you're a barista, you probably can't get sponsored, okay? Your occupation needs to be on a relevant occupation list, all right? And then you need to also know, even if my occupation's on this list, is my employer eligible? Am I eligible? Do I have the education? Do I have the, work experience requirements to apply for one of these visas? Next up, the salary. Guys, if you're applying for most visas, most employer-sponsored visas, you're going to need to have a specific salary. For the 482, it's $73,150 minimum, okay? Maybe for a training visa, it can be less. For other occupations, it can be a lot more. So if your employer is going to pay you under the required salary, it might not even be a starting point. And look, also, I think you need to have give your employer a good idea about what documents they're going to be required to provide. So they're going to need to be able to show that they're operating lawfully in Australia and financially capable of sponsoring you. All right. So the next tip is know the costs. When you say to your employer, hey, will you be open to sponsoring me? Probably the first question will be, how much will it cost me? Okay? So each step has different costs. Each visa has different costs. Do your research, know your costs. Know who has to pay what. So the employer's 100% required to pay the sponsorship and the nomination. All right? So those are legally the requirements from the sponsor. And know when you have to pay it. When is it due? All right? Next up, know when you need to lodge, okay? Some of these sponsored visas will require advertisements that run for at least 28 days. If your visa is expiring in, 28 days and you haven't put the adverts up, it might be too late. Additionally, don't rush your employer. The further advance you give them, the more time they're going to have to prepare the application, prepare everything. If you come and rush them, they're going to tell you to go jump. And finally, let them know what the benefits are to sponsoring you. Look, obviously, if they're sponsoring you, they're filling a skill gap that they can't fill, okay? And if you leave the company, what's going to happen to it? I think one of the main reasons that a lot of companies do sponsor is that it potentially fosters a more loyal workforce, okay? So sponsored employees are generally a little bit more grateful, and if they are going to go to PR, they have to be there for a certain time quite often. So if you're going to go from the 482 to the 186, it's going to be at least 2 years. If you're a really good employee, companies are going to want to have you there. It's going to save them on training new employees, going to save them on recruitment costs, all that sort of stuff. And finally, once your employer has sponsored before, so they've set up to become a standard business sponsor, they don't need to do that step anymore. So it might be a little bit cheaper for them if they're looking to do it with other employees as well. Okay? So look, I hope you found this information helpful. We do have some free booklets on our website you can download. But if you want to discuss your situation in detail, feel free to contact Pathway to Oz. Thank you.